Right, so this lady responded to this video. Take a look.
Can we finally talk about how a lot of Black girls and women will never have a classic dating experience? They will never have a date planned for them or a bouquet of roses waiting on them. Never. And we all know why, but I just want to know if we're ready to talk about why. Because if we really get into it, it's going to get very dark. And a lot of people, Black women are hypersexual, blah, blah, blah. If selling sex is the only way you can get the attention of your male counterparts, what should you then do? Are we ready to have this conversation? Are we ready? Because I have met plenty of Black women in their 30s who've never been on a real date, who've never received a bouquet of flowers, who've never gotten a gift from the men that they were allegedly dating. Are we ready for this conversation?
Yes, we are ready for this conversation. Welcome back to the channel. And I found a really great set of videos from Priscilla Boye. I think that is how you say her name. I actually did one of her videos a while back. She was talking about introverted women. And today she's talking about, women say that most Black women will never have a classic dating experience. And by that, I am believing, like the lady said, it's more of a Hollywood-based experience where, the guy sets up the date, he may or may not bring flowers, blah, blah, blah. But during the time of their dating/courtship, he does go down and do those things, right? So you see the stuff on the screen. And if you're brand new to my channel, I'm all about marriage. And I actually speak to both men and women. So certain videos line up a little bit more with women and certain videos line up a little bit more with men. It just depends upon whatever the subject matter is. And I'm always trying to see things maybe from a slightly different angle that, that the people in the video are not talking about, to make sure that we keep things balanced. Because one of the things that I've noticed a lot on, these social media spaces is that we don't do a lot of balancing. And like I say, I understand why people do that, because honestly, it's more about ratings than it is about anything else, and just trying to get clicks and people to actually watch the video. But if we really want to solve a lot of these problems, we have to go deeper. And deeper, almost like that lady just said, is where a lot of people really don't want to go. Once we really put all that together, so let's go straight into it. In the Black community, we are not one type of person, all right? So if Black women have found this video or Black men have found this video, depending upon your social economic class, depending upon where you live in the United States, depending upon, like I say, your background, all this other kind of stuff, is going to affect your dating experience, because we're talking specifically to the dating experience, right? So if you're dealing with men who generally might actually have a little bit more money, they might have come from backgrounds where they were taught, to do some of the things that the first lady was talking about, at that point, those men will be more likely to do said thing. And one of the things I think we have, and this is a small aside, one of the things that I think we have to do now is we also have to deal with this whole concept of love bombing. All right. And this concept of love bombing is just guys are bringing gifts, trying to be better than, the average guy in order to rise themselves up higher in that dating space. And so the woman gets overwhelmed. She's never gotten flowers. She's never gotten gifts. But then because everybody's talking about it in social media, now she's on guard. And she does not receive the gift in the way that she should have. All right. So I just want to make sure I put that out there, for those that are going to drop that in the comments. Now, when you're talking about a guy that's genuine, and I think that's the key element here, if he's genuinely bringing flowers, does he genuinely bring candy or gifts, or, make the date and try to do something, spectacular for the lady? This is going to deal with the social economic class. And like I say, background and what the guy was taught and all these other types of things. One of the things that we do a lot in the Black community is that, especially when it comes to Black women, all right, is that we act like Black women are experiencing something that is solely there just for Black women. just for black women. And one of the things that I'm always trying to explain is that, yes, black women do go through some things. I will agree. But there are white women, Latino women, Asian women, Indian women that have experienced the exact same thing. When you start to look at men, okay, so let's take a step back and let's look at men for a second. For a man to give this classic experience, there has to be reasons why, like I said, he wants to give that classic experience. And like I've talked to you guys a lot about the 3 types of people and stuff like that. And the type that naturally does that, naturally wants to give and be romantic, is going to be the heart type. All right. And I know you're seeing the picture right now on the screen, and I know you see a woman. All right. But for the new people, okay, both men and women can be all of the 3 types, which are the thinking type, the instinct type, and the heart type. All right. When you're dealing with the heart type, okay, heart type men are romantic. They are. They are the type that wants to bring you flowers. They are the type that want to buy you candy. They are the type that wants to take you on a really great date. Okay, and women might say, well, how do I see these guys? How do I find these guys? Well, the problem with the heart type men is that they have a lot of the same issues as the heart type women. Okay, so that's part 1. And you can see some of the issues, like I say, on the screen. Now, the second part about that is because they walk in romance, because they walk with their heart open, and they walk in a lot of a supporting role. A lot of times women bypass these men. All right. In fact, heart type men are the least desired of all 3 types of men. Women generally go after instinct-based men. These are the men that build corporations. These are the men that become the vice presidents or the presidents. These are the men that own their own businesses. These are the men that are constantly pushing forward. Okay, heart type men may do these things, but it's less likely. So when you're starting to deal with an instinct-based man, more than likely he's going to have more money. He's going to be a lot more aggressive about life. And when you're dealing with a heart-based man, he's probably not going to dress as well. He's probably going to let himself go a little bit. So he might be a few extra pounds or something like that. And then he is going to lean in with his heart, which a lot of women say that they want, but many women can't handle on the first couple of dates. And sometimes even once they get in, because a lot of times they might consider it to be love bombing, or the man is messing with them. He's not showing up as his authentic self. You see, we have all these terms that we use in the dating space. And you have men that their authentic self is being romantic. Now, if you've been tracking with me for a while, I know the new people, it'll be new to them. But I always talk about the different 3 types, but I also talk about you have blended types, right? And I say it's not necessarily 1-to-1. So if you have, it doesn't mean that they're 50% instinct and then 50% heart. It doesn't mean that. It can actually be 75-25 or, any other combination, right? So like I said, with me, I am about 60% instinct based, but I'm about 25% heart-based. That's one of the main reasons why I can be on this channel and I can actually care about the people that watch me. My instinct energy, I'll be honest, is always out here. It wants to push the channel. It wants to figure out how to get more followers. It wants to do all these things. But the heart-based side of me is like, well, I really want to care about these people. I really want them to get married. I want them to, get all of what God has for them. So those 2 natures are in battle within me, right? But my heart-based nature is real. And when I was in middle school, I was that dude. And I've said it in a couple of videos before. I was that dude. I was the dude that was giving flowers. I was the dude that was bringing balloons. But what happened very quickly was that women, girls back then, shut me down. As I find that a lot of heart-based men, when they do show that side of them, they get shut down. Okay. And it usually happens in middle school because these guys are going after certain girls. Those girls don't appreciate it, or their friend group, is shaming them, for accepting, said gifts, and then at that point, the guy, starts to learn, okay, well, these are not appreciated. So he pulls that back. And it's like I've said before, especially for the new people, when you're dating someone, you're not dating literally the person in front of you. You are dating the middle school person that is within them. I don't care if it's a man talking to a woman. I don't care if it's a woman talking to a man. You're dealing with the insecurities, the understanding, the problems, the pain of what those people were dealing with when they were in middle school and high school. So it's just like when people want to talk about women, a lot of guys want to talk about women. And, even I saw a guy put it in the comments the other day, which is, I agree with. When you have a woman, let's say she's 16 and she has a boyfriend and she gets with this boyfriend and he's really just a pookie, and she dates him and she has sex with him. And then the next year when she's 17, she does it again and it's another pookie. And then she does it again, maybe at 19. Well, by the time she's 25, she's only used to Pookie. Pookie is what she's drawn to because that energy is now all over her. And so at that point, she really doesn't know how to distinguish good men from Pookie, right? So from a woman's perspective, the women that are following me, they can kind of understand this. And even when women say, I'm looking for a guy that I have chemistry with, what that really means is that guy has a sexual energy that I understand. Okay, that's what, you guys really mean when you say chemistry, because you can build chemistry with anyone, but it takes time. And believe it or not, it took time with the first 2 or 3 boyfriends. It's just that when you're younger, you just don't pay attention to it. So all of us, whether we're male or female, we are products of our middle school and high school selves. And so when men are taught, okay, that in middle school and high school, and sometimes college or community college, or even when you get out here, that giving gifts, that doing extra is not appreciated and sometimes even laughed at by women, those heart-based men, okay, pull their heart back and then they learn not to do those things anymore. And now the women out there, the few men that would have done it, now they don't do it. And now you're dealing with a situation where you're saying, well, I want that because I've seen it in romance books and stuff like that. But I'm telling you the truth, a lot of white men don't do that. A lot of Asian men don't do that. A lot of Latino men don't do that. And it's all for the same reason. When those men go out and they actually present that to women, if the woman is not ready for that, then she's not going to accept it. Okay? And there are even women now, like I said, for those that are new to the channel, I am basically over a group of singles here in Atlanta. And that group is actually pretty large. And in that group, a lot of times we discuss, different things that people have gone through. And that's how, I gained a lot of experience and a lot of understanding. And so you even have situations where even now at 35 and 40 and 45, that women will say, yeah, a guy came up, he was on a date, he brought me flowers. And then they'll be asking the question in the group, like, can I trust him? I don't know if I can trust him because, he brought me flowers. That's so weird. See, it's like you can't ask for one thing and then give a different behavior when you're actually in the real world. And this is the argument, ladies, for a lot of the ladies that are watching right now. This is the argument that a lot of men have been making. Men do not do well with double standards. But the way that women work because of their emotions, what they like, what they don't like, they really kind of move in a way in which they really want men to kind of understand. And so the men that can kind of pick it up are the ones that do better, okay, with women. But it's just like they had, it's just like I did a video recently, and it was talking about how women would have double standards, and they would say things like, well, I'm not going to kiss a guy, or, do anything with him, for the first 90 days. But then when they see a guy that they really, really like, they'll bend the rules a little bit. And most of the women watching, y'all know that, this happens, that you guys do this, right? And I'm not beating you up for it. I'm not mad at you for it. But that confuses men. All right? That confuses men. That's why I say it's the double standards. And so women are saying, hey, I want this. But then when they get it, even sometimes from the guy that they really like in this particular situation, the lady in the group really liked the guy. But because of social media, because of all these other things, now she don't really know how she feels about accepting it.
This video, a lot of black men responded to her video. Unfortunately, there were no women responding to her video, but black men. I'm going to play their responses because they had a lot to say, right? But before I do that, did she say anything wrong with what she said? Let me know in the comment section, because I didn't hear anything wrong with what she was saying. I've seen so many videos on TikTok alone of men explaining why they prefer hoes. I saw this video on YouTube a few days ago with the title.
I want to stop right there. And again, I think we got to look at it, and no disrespect, to Miss Priscilla, okay? Like I said, I did one of her other videos, and I respect, a lot of what's going on with her channel. But you got to, again, think about the guys on TikTok, the guys on YouTube, the guys, what is their platform? What are they really talking about? Are they in their feelings? Are they really trying to help? Are they coming with a balanced energy? Because I believe that if you go to the random guy on TikTok, you're going to get a totally different energy versus a guy on YouTube that has 500,000 followers. All right. These are going to be two totally different groups of men. I don't even care if the guy on YouTube who has 500,000 followers, if most of his followers are men. A lot of times you're just going to get a different perspective with the social economics, with the man's understanding of people, and like I say, what they're really pushing. But the average person sitting at home is just in their feelings. All right. And so we have to kind of put all of that together.
You are not ugly. You are just not willing to be naked. For a lot of black men, right? If you don't dress provocatively, they are not even looking at you. Okay, they are not even looking. If your hair texture doesn't look a certain type of way, if your skin tone is not a certain type of color, they are not looking at you. But everything is almost sexualized. And besides, most of these 20 versus 1, smash or pass, and so on and so forth, when you check the people that create this type of content, it's men. Yeah, and there's a handful of women with similar content, but mostly it's men.
Are y'all ready to be honest with yourselves? Because Exhibit A. Oh, look at the search bar. What is the search bar? Y'all have glorified hoe culture to the point where it's, or should I say, sexual freedom. Y'all have glorified it to the point where there's a point of no return. I'm sorry. It's just a point of, y'all will not place at the feet of men. I'm not going to let y'all do that. You don't get dates because you don't pick the men, the black men that are going to take you on a date. See, because if it was so great, if it wasn't a you thing and it was a black man thing, other races of men would give it to you, but they don't. So it might just be a you thing. Plenty of black men out here that will give you roses, give you nice dinner dates, give you all the romantic shit that y'all talk about. If you actually dealt with men who like y'all. But see, I made all types of videos, but a common theme that popped up when I started talking about a good man, the qualities of a good man, a lot of women came on the videos like that talking about just because he's a good man doesn't mean he's for me. You could be sweet, kind, caring, give you the bouquet of roses, take you on the nice picnics that are thoughtful. dates and fly kites and do all that silly foo-foo shit. But y'all only want it when it comes from the dude that y'all want it to come from.
Okay, I had to stop him because he just started to go into some serious stuff over there that doesn't quite work with this channel. But I have to actually agree with a lot of what he said. And I know a lot of the women that might be watching might be a little bit frustrated with that. But, I mean, again, we have to kind of, be truthful. And I think a lot of what a lot of men are looking for is they want women to truly be truthful. Okay, women do want it from the man that they want it from. And one of the arguments that a lot of men, and really, there are a few women that say the same thing, is that you have to date the men and even go to the places where you are appreciated. Okay, you date the men that appreciate you. And I've even had some videos, that I've done where I've talked to men and actually told men, to date women that are chasing them, that like them, that are actually giving those men energy. All right. That, try to tell the men out here not to go after what they think is a 10 out of 10 woman and try to, get with her. Instead, pay attention to the woman that's just chill, who's right next to you, who has a crush on you, who it might not necessarily be a 10, but maybe she's a 7. And then you can work that out because she's going to love you better. And so a lot of women really need to kind of do the same thing. And I understand the concept that a lot of women go through when they talk about settling. Okay. And I think that's where a lot of women might come in and they might say, well, if I do that, I'm settling. But what I've encouraged the people on this channel to do, as you see, that I am concerned about marriage, is that you have to remember you're not going to get everything you want. In fact, I'm always telling people you're probably going to get about 2/3 of what you want. And about 15% you can kind of work out with the other person. All right. And, for the new people, what that means is you can buffer the person a little bit. You can change their clothes a little bit. Like he has, I think, dreads. I ain't going to have no dreads. But if a woman was working out with me and she didn't like the beard, I would be willing to cut it off. So there are things like that you can work out with the other person and kind of modify them a little bit in order to make the experience, more pleasurable, right? But you have to be willing to do that work. You're not going to get a person that is 80 or 90% perfect. That is extremely rare. And especially when you're coming with all of these things that you want. So what this gentleman is trying to say is he's saying, kind of what I'm saying is like, focus in on the guy that will give you those things. But what I'm also going to add, when you look at him, you see that that guy is attractive, that he does have qualities that you're looking for, and that you recognize you might have to do some work, 15%, like I said, in order to get him a little bit closer to what you're looking for. And I understand that there will be women that will say, I am not willing to put in any work. Okay. And this is what I would say to that. If you don't put in any work, then I'm going to be honest with you, you get what you get. All right. But before you put in work, you do not put in work on the core elements that the man should be coming with. All right. And that is protection, provision, and leadership. You cannot turn him into a leader. You cannot make him ambitious. Okay. You can't force him to go to the gym. These are the types of things you cannot fix. If it is not in him at his core, you cannot fix it. All right. And I know that this is a Christian channel, but like I say, I talk to different people. But again, for the Christian women, you can't make him Christian. All right. You can't do that. That is something that has to come from within him. But if it's something like his clothes, his beard, you can change those things. You can introduce him to music that he's never listened to. All right. And honestly, if you hang around with him, he's going to start to talk like you. So if you use certain slang words and different things like that, he is going to start to do that. Those are things that you can change. But you cannot change his core nature. And see, that's what a lot of women try to do. They try to get the fun essence of the man that looks like they want. And then they try to go in and try to make him more ambitious. and make him a better leader. And see, that doesn't work because you're doing it opposite. All right? Because you can't build a man. Okay? But once the man is built, because his mom and daddy was supposed to build him, once he's built, you can repaint the outside. You can decorate it with, decorate them with bushes and trees and stuff like that. That's what you can do. But you can't build, you can't rechange his foundation. Okay, once he's built, he's built.
Ooh, y'all not gonna like what I gotta say. It's okay, I'm gonna say it anyway. You can't separate people from the context that they exist in. For people, it's mostly culture. Culture is linked to a variety of environmental factors and societal factors. What I say next, I need your cognitive dissonance and implicit biases to be kind of cut off, and I need you to really listen to this. For a long time, Black people have not had a culture that's conducive to romance. And if we had the kind of conditioning to put into the culture for romance, it's usually come at the other end of suffering or some kind of strife or trauma. And that's why a lot of Black women will never have a classic dating experience, especially if you want a classic dating experience from a Black man. That classic dating experience pool is very small. Oftentimes, especially as Black people, I know this was not like specific, but oftentimes as Black people, we are our own, as the young folk would say, biggest ops. Okay?
So that's going to be the last guy I can do for sake of time. But, with him, I agree a little bit. I understand, the direction he went, dealing with, the history. All right. And I've talked about that before because we're really sitting right now on about 40 to 50 years worth of history where Black men could actually protect Black women, and a lot of people that, might not have really thought about that, but we've only really had about 2 generations where Black men could actually do that, based upon our history. So based off what that guy said, that is what I'll add to it. But again, I would still say it still goes back to personality. It's kind of like I had a video I did a while back. I actually got a lot of love for that particular video, but it had a Black guy in it, and he was given the reasons why he dated white women. And basically what he said was when he was growing up, he kind of grew up in an urban environment, and he was always interested in things that a lot of Black people were not interested in. And as he tried to talk to Black women, they basically ignored him, right? And as he got older, he found that a lot of white women did not ignore him. And so at that point, he was like, well, I really like Black women and I like them better. But again, I am going to go with the people that like me. And so he started to date white women, and that was all, she wrote. Now, you can use that same analogy because we as Black people, we have a culture, all right? And this culture is not on all of us, but unfortunately, it's on most of us. So we could say maybe 55 to 60% of Black people have a stereotypical Black understanding. All right. It's almost like when you look at me, you would say, oh, Jay, I know you might be bumping some hip hop. I know that you probably had problems with the law, that, you have this racism issue that has happened to you. That, if you're going to go out, you're going to do X, Y, Z. More than likely, you smoked some weed at one time in your life, blah, blah, blah. You see all these things that we have as a stereotype, for our culture. So what happens many times is when you exist outside of that stereotype, people look at you as weird. And so you have situations where men, like I said, they would naturally do the thing. But because women in general, okay, within the Black community are basically saying, I don't accept that because that seems foreign to me. It seems odd to me. Now what you're doing is you're shutting those men down. And what men always learn to do is they learn to adapt. Men adapt a little bit better than women do. Women adapt really well once they're in a relationship, but men adapt to get in the relationship. Okay, if this makes sense. So when you're dealing with men, it's like I've told you guys before, So you go back to middle school, and a lot of times what happens is little girls, because they don't really know. I mean, y'all didn't know back then. So y'all 12, 13 years old, you're having a conversation with a guy friend, all right? And then you will say something like, we like nice guys. I really wish I could find a nice guy. We like nice guys. And so the little boy internalizes this, and he says, oh, they like nice guys. So he becomes the nice guy. And then during middle school, he gets looked beyond. The women don't talk to him. And then beginning of high school, they don't talk to him. So what happens is the little boy looks around and he starts to see the guys who are getting the women. And the guys that are getting the women act a certain way. They treat the women a certain way. And so he starts to say, these women say they want a nice guy, but they always end up with a bad guy. So he becomes the bad guy. And as he becomes the bad guy, he sees success. So now society, this new smaller, high school society, or maybe college society, or maybe community college society, has taught him that women don't want this. They say one thing, but then they want another. That's why I talked about this whole double standard. And what men learn to do, they're adaptable. And so they learn to adapt to what works. And they learn to close their ears to what women say. Because if they're saying it, but then it doesn't work, for men, it's illogical. All right. And this is not me trying to talk bad to women. I'm trying to get women to understand. This is why this happens. It has to be logical to the man. If a woman says, I want nice guys, that means nice guys should win all the time. If women say, I want a guy to bring me flowers, that means when the guy brings flowers, he gets bonus points. And when the guy does not bring flowers, he doesn't get bonus points. But what men learn is that women like a certain type of dude. And that type of dude can literally do no wrong. And then guys that are in that realm, unless they're naturally romantic, they don't have a reason to do it. And that's how that works. And when men have no desire to get married and they have no moral compass, they're in a position where when they're dating women, they really don't care. They don't see why should they spend money? Why should they do the extra? Why should they go? Because remember, ladies, men are logical. Okay, not all of them, but the core of man is logical. So a man is thinking, if I dress a certain way, talk a certain way, move a certain way, I can get this woman. I don't have to pay anything extra. I'm still going to get sex out of her. She'll probably cook and clean for me. She'll probably do everything for me. And I don't have to really do anything for her. Oh, yeah, that works for me. It works for me. And even if 20% of women say, no, I don't want that. That's not what I want. I want a really great guy. I want this. I want that. And those women try to, distance themselves. The problem is, okay, if the man can still get his desires fulfilled and enough men can do that, it doesn't care. They don't care. And that's why that 20% of women feels that, wow, I'll never get married, or I'll never have this, or I'll never have that. And then that's why, like the first guy, and you've heard me say it, always goes back to who you're dating and who you're picking. Because even in the midst of all of that, there's still men out here that are just naturally romantic. And again, if you don't know or see the signs of it, and that's why I talk so much about different types of people. It's not so much because I want you guys to fall in love with that. Okay. It's more about trying to understand that, it's like I've said before, if every single guy you have dated is a Gemini, then you have to say, why do you keep going after Geminis when you could try a Leo, or you could try a Sagittarius? And I know a lot of Christians don't like, all the zodiacs, so don't beat me up about that. But I'm using it as an example because it's something everybody understands. All right. So anyway, hopefully this helped. Again, please please subscribe. There's a lot of really great information in that description. And I'm going to see you all in the very next video.